Have you ever played a game where you feel less like a player and more like you have accidentally stumbled into a random ballet class? Hi! Today we're scraping away all the deep lore about bugs and the void of Silksong. Instead, we're looking at this game from an unusual perspective, the connection between dance and music. We're dissecting two completely different stage performances, the iconic classical ballet of the Cogwork Dancers and the passionate flamenco vibe of Skarrsinger Karmelita. So here's the big question for you today. Will you be able to survive this amount of probably overanalyzed Silksong speculation, or will you just lose your mind while I'm running out of topics? One thing is certain, this video is Timothée Chalamet's kryptonite. Let's dive in. It all traces back to the history of dance, a universal human behavior and art form consisting of purposeful or improvised body movements, rich with both aesthetic and symbolic value. While it's easy to assume that movements simply evolved to follow sound, historians and musicologists actively debate which came first, kind of a chicken and egg situation. In fact, early human music likely arose from the repetitive, alternating muscular rhythms of dance and theater itself, mirroring our symmetry through left-right, forward-backward, and rise-fall movements. Eventually, this co-evolution birthed dance music, which is basically any music composed to facilitate or accompany dancing. It's a massive umbrella term, I know, that spans everything from folk dances and sacred rituals to Western classical ballet, historical ballroom styles, and even modern electronic dance music. But across all eras, dance and its music share an unbreakable bond built on universal rules. They rely on a regularly repeating pulse and distinct structural phrases that we can physically synchronize our body movements to. Back in the French court of King Louis XIV, composer Jean-Baptiste Lully, at least that's how he wanted to be called, Giovanni Battista Lully, born and raised in Tuscany, Italy, the traitor, basically invented the comédie ballet. He established some of the ground rules of ballet that are still used to this day. And fun story about this guy, he used to conduct ballet by stomping the rhythm with a heavy wooden stuff. And so far so good. But one day, during a performance of his Te Deum to celebrate Louis XIV's recovery from surgery, he accidentally smashed his own foot. He refused to get his toe amputated, so the infection spread to his brain, and he literally died of gangrene. Yeah, bon appétit. So, music, rhythm, theory, movement, all its stuff sounds pretty scientific, right? Yeah, and to fully understand what's happening with the ballet bosses in Silksong, we need to look at the choreomusicology. What the is that? Well, it's just a complicated word to define the science of how music and dance talk to each other. You know, yours truly here, as a trained pianist, accompanied ballet classes for a while in the past. And the thing is, musicians and dancers experience time differently. Musicians count small. Take a 4/4, 4 beats per bar. That's how long our rubber band is. And the reason is that we produce small and quick movements, like pressing down one key or plucking a string. We're talking milliseconds here. We need to go micro. Dancers go macro. If musicians count 2, 3, 4. Dancers go 6, 7, 8. Why? Because their movements simply take more time. To use the 4, for example, from before, a dancer will stretch their phrase across 2 full measures to get that 8 count. So what you're saying is that the connection between music and dance is that tight? Thank you, Stephen, for your question. It gets even deeper, actually. Think about the orchestra. The conductor has total control over time, and musicians must follow. But if dancers are involved, then he's got to deal with real-world physics and kind of adapt to the dancer's needs. Take Tchaikovsky's super popular Swan Lake Ballet, with the Black Swan performing the legendary 32 turns, or Fouetté en tournant. Her continuous spinning relies entirely on the conservation of angular momentum. I don't know, yeah. Let's go to the Soviet Union, shall we? Okay, I know maybe it's not the best timing, but bear with me for a minute. I've heard a lot of people say that this music was reminding them of Tchaikovsky ballet music, which is fair, but to be honest with you, I kinda disagree. I find Tchaikovsky's music way too refined, sophisticated. The melody from Cogwork Dancers, despite the full orchestra, sounds quite traditional. It reminds me of Russian folklore, something between Korobeniki, Moscow Nights. This aesthetic actually aligns very well with the sort of quote-unquote postcard Russian ballet idea, making the vibe feel like we're watching a performance at the Bolshoi. The core building block of the entire track is this melodic motif, a simple 4-note gesture that starts in the 5th scale degree, the G, dives a 5th down to the tonic, C, and then steps its way back up through D, E flat, and F. And harmonically, I just want to mention the gorgeous minor plagal cadence in bar 5 and 6, borrowing a B flat minor chord from the C Phrygian mode. If you want to know more about modal interchange, look up my Bywater video, there's a long explanation of this technique over there. In phase 2, the harmony derails into wild and chromatic territory. Larkin introduces a secondary dominant, A7 goes to D major, that completely opens up the track in a bright, deceptive oscillation between D7 and E flat major. Bounces back and forth like a pendulum a couple of times before a first inversion dominant chord steers us back home to the C minor. Phase 3, the upper strings rocket of a climbing bass line that ascends straight up the C minor scale using a traditional rule of the octave harmonization. Tension builds through frantic call and response triplets between woodwind and strings, eventually culminating in a massive fortissimo brass explosion. And from here, the track enters a volatile sequence of rapid modulations, shifting through G minor, B flat minor, F sharp minor, especially this moment where the double basses drop to a heavy G sharp while the upper orchestra or this kind of F major triad and the medley strikes a B natural on top. That's pretty fun stuff. Phase 4. The main melody returns, but it's stripped down to a fragile music box line. Mechanically and narratively, this is an incredible piece of musical storytelling. With only one dancer left on the floor, the music shifts into a lonely carillon that ends on a single note. Sad poetic justice. As a side note, if you find the Clockwork Dancers in Virginia, the music, despite keeping the same melody of Cogwork Dancers, is more romantic, expressive, is chamber-like, and yet the strings' ostinato fire is reminiscent of what we're about to experience with Karmelita in the second part of the video, indicating that we're talking about one of the ancient rulers, the 4 powerful mortal beings who existed before Grandmother Silk appeared in Pharloom. Quick break. Do you remember what I said about this video basically being Timothée Chalamet's Kryptonite? Well, speaking about Kryptonite, I was watching this the other day.
Doc says I'm okay, but I feel like I just...
Come on. Who else do you know on YouTube who could have found the Silksong team in a teen drama Superman series from the early 2000s? Didn't I deserve a list? In the comments, jokes aside, drop a comment down below. I love to hear your thoughts.
I feel really proud. I literally, every time I play the game, I'm just like, my voice is in that. And just like, you know, always to my fiance, just like, wait, can we just listen to it again? Like, it feels really nice. Yeah.
If the Cogwork Dancers were about folk Russian tunes going ballet, Skarrsinger Karmelita goes kinda epic flamenco. I don't know, not exactly flamenco. Well, let me explain. Flamenco originated from the folkloric traditions of the Romani subculture in Andalusia, southern Spain, Gitano. If the Cogwork Dancers ballet was about floating mid-air, this dance is all about the ground. It's earthbound, it's passionate. At its core, flamenco is built on the concept of duende, a deeply felt, almost mystical state of emotion and soul. Structurally, it relies on the improvisational dialogue between 3 core elements, the cante, the song, which dictates the emotional narrative and rhythm, the toque, the guitar playing, which structures the harmony and accents, and the baile, the dance. Now, visually, Karmelita's appearance, vibe, combat style, and so on are clearly influenced by flamenco imagery. But at the same time, if you've heard a flamenco song at least one in your life, you know that that's really nothing to do with Karmelita's theme.
I did have a Spanishy vibe in my mind, particularly because I don't think it's a secret. I'm pretty sure I read this, someone noticed online that Karmelita wasn't spelt with a K originally, it was spelled with a C, and it was spelt when I got Skarrsinger Karmelita, the sheet music. I had no clue. I think I got to see like a picture and I was told that I was a boss battle, and I was singing as the boss and that I was Queen of the Ants. I do think that it connects really well, with the flamenco, like you're right. Yeah.
What really ties everything together and bridges the gap between flamenco and the song is the way the vocals are treated. Despite Karmelita singing in an operatic style, it has a clear improvised vocalise feel, as if she were constantly trying to find her way back to bar one. This singing quality really connects the dots between the flamenco aesthetics and the ramping epic strings fire that we are hearing.
We did a little bit of experimenting on like timbre and with portamentos, so maybe some slides, or if we were going to actually do proper, we did some experimenting on vowels as well, a closed vowel or a more open vowel, more vibrato, less vibrato, He wanted an opera style that was a bit lighter, I believe. He wanted a kind of mix of almost operatic but a bit lighter. I was leaning more on the classical side and just really trying to keep the vibrato to a minimum to give it that, like a youthful vibe. At first, I think I came in really heavy. And then he was like, let's pull it back a little. Yeah.
As you approach a theater where Karmelita is, you start to hear her singing, right? This is what we call diegetic music. Music that exists inside the fictional world of a story, meaning the characters can hear it just like the audience does. As soon as you garama her, she throws some of her minions at you, as she keeps dancing and singing for the audience. So while you fight against them, you can hear and see her singing in the background. Now, as you defeat all the minions, she decides to get down to battle herself with a proverbial soprano high note. Really cool dynamic music idea, by the way. And as she starts to fight, you can still hear the music and her voice. This is one of those magical moments in games and movies where the music goes from diegetic to non-diegetic. Karmelita's theme throws us headfirst into G minor with an intense driving 8-note string ostinato. She sings a soaring melody that shares a striking structural similarity to the Cogwork Dancers theme. Some people on Reddit argued secret lore connections, but I think that's just a coincidence. During the soprano's second melodic repetition, the track takes a sharp dramatic turn. The voice lands hard on the piercing D-flat, forcing the underlying harmony to pivot into a shocking B-flat minor chord. This is a direct brilliant theft for the dark G-Locrian mode. From there, the harmony cascades down a heavy chain of parallel minor chords, traveling all the way from G minor to E major in a matter of seconds. We're suddenly sitting on the exact opposite side of the circle of fifths. It's kind of disorienting. When the main theme returns, the orchestra upgrades to match the escalating battle. The strings ditch the ostinato for frantic sweeping scale runs, while the French horns lock arms with the vocals in octaves. But right when you expect a clean resolution, nope. The bass drops to an E-flat major chord, but the soprano holds her line on an unexpected F-sharp, a brutal clash. The track then drops into a musical waiting area section. The upper orchestra outlines a clear G minor, but the tuba punches out a low B natural. It's kind of polyharmony G minor against B major. As the song nears its end, another classic composition trick, a stretto, literally tight. He shrinks the vocal motif into fast quarter notes, making the track feel panicked and agitated. The soprano strikes a piercing IG, and the entire orchestra blasts a jagged, broken chord motif into that unison finish. What happens when the final curtain falls and the dust clears from the stage? Silksong is a game where music is the driving force of the whole world. I mean, it's literally right there in the title. But more than that, is a game where the boss fights sometimes really feel like a dance class. Think about it. The rhythm of the music dictates the tempo of the gameplay. The gameplay becomes a choreography you have to memorize, and that choreography is the storytelling. With the Cogwork Dancers, the clockwork rhythm tells you everything you need to know about their automated existence and teaches you the art of anticipation. And then with Karmelita, you drop into the pit, or mystical gulf as Wagner used to call it. The music is epic and heavily driven by the improvisational character of the voice, just like flamenco. It's a live performance where the line between the music she's singing and the fight you're fighting completely blurs. And then you are, on the other side, a guest performer in a little and charming duet. A fight that you don't really mind losing, if it means that you get to listen to the song just one more time. And that is a wrap. Okay, I really need to thank you all for the success of my previous video about Hornet versus Lace, which is incredible for me, so thank you so much for your likes, comments, subs. You were really kind. I'm really glad you enjoyed my work. If you like this breakdown, please hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. I got plenty more deep dive analysis coming your way, and say hi over on Instagram where I'm dropping music breakdowns and running Q&As. Let me know what you think in the comments, drop any questions, add your own lore, do whatever it takes to help the algorithm know that you want more of these videos. With that being said, have a nice day. Catch up later.